Okay, we are live. We are live. I'm gonna wait a little bit to see. All right, yep, I am live. All right, word. What's going on, you all? What's going on? And welcome back to another episode here of Vintage Glamour. So, I know I was supposed to come last week, but IG, man, sometimes my IG, I have some issues with my IG. The live was acting up, so I was like, all right, if I can't do a live, I can't even post on Instagram, I can't even post on my story, then I'm going to just wait and do it next week. So here I am here. But I wanted to come today and talk to you all about the confessions of a vintage dealer. The confessions of a vintage dealer. Now, I'm not going to go in and say my entire story of everything that has been going on and everything that has happened because we will be here all day. We will literally be here all day. But I do want to let you all know a part of my journey, especially the beginning, because I really think, it's really, really important to be transparent here. I know that, social media, it can make things look really glamorous and it can make things look really easy at times. But, along my journey, I've experienced a lot of highs, but I also experienced a lot of lows. And I definitely want to share this part of my journey, in hopes that perhaps it inspires someone, perhaps it empowers someone today, and maybe it will inspire someone to start their own vintage brands. You never know. So I got the idea to do my vintage store in 2016 when I was 24. The idea came to me, and around that time, I was applied behavioral analysis therapist, so ABA therapist working with kids and adults with autism. And prior to that, I was doing City Air Boston, so it was like an AmeriCorps program, long hours, very little pay. So I was just along the lines of what I studied in college, which was psychology, and I minored in African American studies. So I was going along that path. And as I was going along that path, I was like, everything that I'm doing is really, really rewarding. City Air was really rewarding. I thought being an ABA therapist was really, really rewarding as well, but I felt really unfulfilled. And I also felt like, what I was doing was really stifling my creativity. And around that summer, the thought of, opening up my own vintage store came to me. And I said, that's a really, really interesting thought. But I also knew, in the fall time, I was going to be working at a different position. I was going to be working at a really, really well-known nonprofit in Boston. So I said, although this is a really, really good idea, and I think it would be great for me to start my own vintage store, I think, I'm just going to continue along this path that I'm already on, which is, youth development and, working with people. I really, really love, that aspect. And, I'm going to just continue to go along that path. But when I started that job in September, man, I was excited to start that job too, you all. I had 4 interviews for that job, 4 interviews. And I will never forget, I got the job, the first meeting we had, the first team meeting we had, I literally witnessed my entire team go around and express microaggressions and racism that they were experiencing in the organization. So I'm sitting here looking around at my teammates like, what? What is going on? And after that moment, I realized, all right, this is an environment that I'm not going to feel, not only fulfilled in, but comfortable in. I'm literally watching my teammates talk about the microaggressions or the sexism that they've been experiencing, and I'm like, what is really going on? So I said to myself, all right, I'm already here. I already have the job, but I'm definitely going to start to figure out what I need to do for me, because this can't be it. I was really, really, really depressed. I was like, wow, I had 4 interviews for this, 4 interviews. That's all I kept thinking about. So, October rolled around and the thought came again, opening up my own vintage store. And I said, this thought came again. I'm going to run with this. I'm going to run with it. And, in the summer, I had started doing a business plan, but I stopped the business plan. I was like, maybe I should just continue on with what I'm doing already. This youth development field, working with people, let me just continue along this path. But in that, around when October came, I said, I am going to power forward with this. So I started to research, what it really takes to be an entrepreneur, learning more about entrepreneurship, going to different workshops in Boston. I got a part of, there's a program called CWE, which is Center for Women in Enterprise. And I started becoming a part of their workshops, and they had a business planning course that I ended up doing the next year. And I also worked with business consultants as well, which was very great, but I also had some really interesting experiences with that as well, which I'll share later. But I just started to really learn. And, I even met with different business owners in Boston that were running their own resale fashion businesses, really learning from them, really learning, about their journey, why they wanted to start this in the first place. And it was all really, really inspiring to me. And it was the inspiration I needed because I wasn't happy at my job. I really wasn't. I loved my students. Don't get me wrong. I loved my students. I loved really, really connecting with the students. That was really the reason why I stayed for 2 years, my students. But at the same time, I didn't like seeing other people sad and knowing that, so many people, were just at that job, just to be there, and they weren't really, really happy. I was tired of seeing people leave left and right. Every month, people leaving left and right. So I was in a toxic environment and, really trying to find, my way out. And my way was my dreams. My dreams really kept me going. After work, I would go meet with my business consultant and really, really, really consult with him. But around, so this is 2016, 2017 rolls around, and, I'm still, meeting with the consultants. I'm going to the business planning courses. I go to the NARTS conference, which I definitely recommend, for anyone that's into resale fashion. It is a nationwide conference for business owners, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I loved connecting with the people there. And, I remember before I went, people, some people that I knew, they would say to me, Key, I think it's great that you're going to go all the way to Minnesota and go to this conference, but there's not going to, be a lot of Black people there. And, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm still going to go to this conference. This is what I want to do, and I want to learn. I'm just going to the conference to learn. And, although people were right, there wasn't a lot of Black people there. Everybody that I met, whether they were Black, whether they were white, they really, really inspired me immensely. They really did. And, I was happy that I went. I went by myself, and I was nervous to go to Minnesota too, because it was the year after the whole Philando Castile and police brutality. So I was a little nervous, but it was a really liberating experience. And I met a lot of really, really, really great people, and I learned a lot. I really did. And after that experience, I said to myself, you know what? I've been really learning, and I love what I'm doing, but I really need to jump even further in the field and get a position. I need to work at a store. That is what I really need to do. So I started applying, and I ended up getting hired as a resale fashion buyer at Plato's Closet. Mind you, I was still working at the nonprofit in Boston. I was still working there, but I said, that's my job, but I need an experienced job, I'm like, I need an experienced job. I need to just immerse myself even more in this field. So I was really excited when I got hired. And when I was in the interview, though, my boss, she told me, Key, I just want to let you know, this is a failing business. This business is a failing business. So you might see a lot of things going on. And when she told me that, I was like, oh, whoa. So, all right, this is a failing business. But it made me determined. I'm like, all right, I'm walking into this with intention now. I'm thinking, all right, what are things that I can really do now to really, help this business grow? I'm just thinking of ideas, because I'm like, wow, I don't want this business to fail. I'm looking around like, wow, it's really, really, really nice. And it's a really well-known buy, sell, trade store, not even just in Boston, but in America. It's really well-known. So I'm like, we can definitely get things going. So when I started, that was just what was always in my mind. This is a failing business. This is a failing business. This is a failing business. And, not only was it always in my mind, you would be able to see it. There wasn't always a lot of people coming in. And just from observing, I'm like, all right, but why is the business failing though? Why is the business failing? And, sorry you all if you're hearing noises. I'm in the city. I'm in the city. I'm in the city. But, just from observing and talking to people and also talking to, my other coworkers that I work with, there wasn't a lot of backstock. So there wasn't a lot of clothes for, the fall season that was coming around. And there also wasn't a lot of clothes for the winter. So I'm like, all right. That is a huge deal. You need inventory. You need inventory, especially for the wintertime coming up. But just from talking to customers, I realized that a lot of customers knew that they could come into the store and buy items, but a lot of customers did not know that they could also sell items. So that was one thing I realized. The other thing I realized is a lot of customers knew that they can come in and sell items, but a lot of customers did not know what type of items that we needed and wanted. So there was a lack of communication between the store's needs, and the customer. So I'm like, all right, every time I meet with a customer and every time I check a customer out, I'm really going to educate them on what we need so they can become better sellers in the store. And after that, every customer that started coming in became a better seller. I started also realizing, all right, if they don't know that we need more inventory, we have no signs up. We need to create signs. Let's put signs in the fitting rooms. Let's put a huge sign in front of the store. We really need to let the customers know our needs. And just from doing that, things really started to change in the store. But also it was the teamwork amongst, me and everybody else that I was working with. I forgot to mention that, the boss that was there was never there. She was never there. She had other things going on in her life, and she had to tend to those things. So she had teenagers that were working there at the time running the store. And, I was the oldest. I was 25 years old at the time. So just naturally, they looked to me as the leader, even though they would be the shift leads and they would be the leaders on the shift. They would be like, hey, Key, what do you think we should do about this? What do you think we should do? And they even started to change their perception about the store failing to being like, all right, let's find ways to really help this store grow. Because before they're like, I'm in high school. This is my, job right now. I don't really care if this store is failing. I got college next year, but I came in like, nah, this store is failing. I got to figure out what we can do. So just that energy, they're like, we got to figure out what we can do. And it was a beautiful thing just for us to all work as a team. Other people making signs, putting signs up, other people educating customers on what we need. It was really, really beautiful. And along the way, I got employee of the month 3 times, early along getting there. And I was like, wow, this is really a beautiful thing. But I mentioned that because the first time I got it, the boss gave it to me. The second time I got it, my colleagues, recommended me. The third time it was a customer. And my boss told me, I never had, an employee get employee of the month from a customer. So from that energy right there, I could see things were starting to shift. Things were starting to get different. And I'm like, all right, I don't think she really likes that I came here with the intention of wanting to change this business around and really implementing those ideas. And, one day I came in and there was people all throughout the store. I'm talking about a huge long line. This was a Sunday. I will never forget it. And when I walked in, I'm like, oh, wow, this is a busy Sunday. Like, we got to get to work. I'm going to be going through buys for a while. To the point, my other coworkers, they were like, Key, the signs are making people come in like this. Like, this is crazy. Like, we have so many buys. And at that particular day, my boss was there. And, the energy was just really weird. Although we were all excited, the energy was just really, 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 really weird. I could just tell things were really off. And I was over in a corner doing a buy, and she came over to me and she said, Key, like, that is not how you do a buy. When you do a buy, you need to fold things down flatly, and you need to do that. And I, was thinking to myself, okay, like, I know how to do a buy. I've been here for some time, I know how to do a buy. So I can tell, all right, she's micromanaging me now because this is just passive aggressive energy coming towards me, right? And, I responded to her. I said, blank, blank. I ain't going to put her name out. I ain't going to put her name out of respect. So I'm going to say blank, blank. Blank, blank. I know how to do a buy. I appreciate you telling me, but I know how to do a buy. Thanks for telling me. Y'all, just like that. Y'all, the woman gets her bag. She gets all her stuff. Bam! she's out the door. All of us are looking at each other like, did that really just happen right now? Like, did that really just happen? So I turned to them, I'm like, I know I didn't say anything rude. And they said, Key, you didn't. You didn't say anything rude, but she just cannot handle confrontation. You did not say anything rude. You didn't do anything. But intuitively, I knew after the shift that something was going to go down. I just knew, I think I'm getting fired today. I'm getting fired today. I just felt it. For some reason, I'm intuitive. I'm like, something's going to happen. I'm getting fired today. T, I see you. T, I see you cracking up. But I knew I was getting fired. And I'm going to respond to all y'all comments. I'm going to respond. So I go home now, right? And I check my email. Termination letter. What did I tell y'all? Key was getting fired. I read now. And that was my first time, y'all, ever getting fired. So it hit me. I'm not even going to sit in front of y'all and act like, it hit my chest. So I'm reading the termination letter, and it said unwillingness to follow cooperative orders. And I'm like, what? She literally twisted up my words and everything. I was hurt. I responded back, and I had to let her know, like, this is really, really hurtful to me. Like, are you serious? Like, you're terminating me? What? Although I kept feeling like, Key, I think you need to, hop out anyways and start your own stuff. I knew everybody kept telling me that. I still wanted to stay. I still just enjoyed what I was doing. But she terminated me. And, I ended up taking that thing all the way up to the EEOC and talking to a federal lawyer about that. Him and I were going back and forth for 45 minutes because I knew what the underlying lane was for terminating me. I'm going to be honest, sometimes, when you are a black woman, and you come into an establishment, and you're not the boss and you do a job well, some people are not going to like that. And I'm just being straight up and honest. And that's what it was. And even the federal lawyer, he knew that. But he said, listen, Key, there is nothing that we can do about it. At her own will, she can fire you at her own will. You seem like a great employee. You seem like you're going to go far, but she could fire you, and that's it. And once he told me that, I said, you know what? All right, I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to let it go. But that pushed me even more, because I was like, all right, I want to still do, Key to Fashion. It's still in my mind. At that point, I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to start the brick and mortar store yet because, I realized by working in a brick and mortar store, this is, pretty expensive. So I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to do it yet, but I knew that I wanted to start Key to Fashion. I also knew around that time that I also wanted to start my own fashion blog. From, just seeing, other fashion bloggers. And I was also really inspired by this one particular fashion blogger, Freddie Harrell. She really, really, really inspired me. And shout out to her, because when I reached out to her in the DM, she responded. And a lot of people do not do that. And I will never forget that. I think that was so real. So shout out to Freddie. And so I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to start this blog. I'm going to start this blog. I'm going to find a web designer. I'm going to start Key to Fashion. And that's exactly what I did. So I got terminated. It was December of 2017. So going into 2018 is when I started the blog. And then after that, 2019 is when I shifted into the online site. So that is going to be part 2, all of that. Because a lot of, so much happened there as well. But I also didn't mention what happened with the business consultants. I had great business consultants, but I also had one business consultant that sexually harassed me in a meeting. And when him and I were meeting, he ended up making some joke about my nipples being hard. And it was so, I was so shocked at that moment because here I am, you were my business teacher, you see me grow. You taught me so much about this, you saw me do my business pitch in front of other people. And then we ended up working together as my, you being my business consultant. And then you pull a move like that on me. I'm here trusting you with my vision and with my idea. It was very, very, very hurtful. And I, ended up having to confront him on that and ended up having to confront also the people that worked, that were his leaders, his leadership. And, they were appreciative of it because they also were hearing those complaints from other women. So I want to bring that up because this is what a lot of women experience going into business. A lot of women experience this type of stuff, you know, people not taking us seriously being women in business, you know, and that was just such a hurtful moment as well, because I'm like, what, dude, what are you talking about my nipples for, man? You know, I'm here talking to you about my vision, my business, you know what I mean? What are you mentioning that my nipples are getting hard right now? Even if they're getting hard and we're in a meeting, don't pay attention to that. You know what I'm saying? Be professional. But I wanted to mention that because that is, you know, stuff that women in business go through. And maybe, you know, other people probably have experienced something like that as well, you know, and these are things. I remember I went to it was a panel discussion of rent the runway, and I forget Jennifer is her name. That's the founder of Rent the Runway. She was talking about she experienced sexual harassment along her journey as well, and that's something that a lot of women just don't talk about, and how we need to talk about it more. So this is part one, you know, and I think I definitely left out a bit of things in part one. There's going to be several different parts, because if y'all thought part one is something, y'all didn't hear nothing when I get to the blog journey and then the journey with doing the online site. It's been beautiful, but it's also been a ride. And you know, I think with entrepreneurship, you know, one thing I really realize is how resilient I am, and, you know, how much I really want to succeed in life, because it's not easy. And a lot of people tend to think, oh, you know, these pictures, you know, they're posting things on Instagram. No, like, people don't know the tears you shed and the tears you cried. You know, people don't know that there might be, you know, the closest people in your corner that you love the most that don't really understand what you're doing and aren't really rooting for you. You know, like, I'm also first generation American. Like, my parents are not from this country. They would probably much rather me being an engineer or a doctor, you know, to be honest. But I am an unconventional Black woman. You know, I love fashion. I love creativity. And I really love what I'm doing. And one thing that I always say to myself is, regardless of where this goes, of course I want Kita Fashion to go far. But regardless of where this goes, I'm happy that I stayed true to myself. You know, I'm happy that I knew when to shift and pivot when I wasn't happy in a career path and in a field that I wasn't happy in. And, you know, that's really, you know, a message also I want to get across to any of you all that are listening. You know, just continue to push forward and trust in you. You know, you're going to experience your own set of ups and downs, your own sets of highs and lows. And, you know, that's just the journey of life, right? We all experience that. But it feels good to keep going. It really does. You know, if I had stopped when I got fired, you know, I would have looked back on that like, man, you know, like, why did I stop? And I always have this vision of, like, me being 80 years old and thinking, oh, man, like, I should have chased my dreams. And perhaps that's, you know, something I also, that kind of, you know, keeps me going too. It's just the fact that I don't want to, you know, look back and be like, man, you know, why didn't I chase my dreams? Why didn't I, you know, go after what the things I wanted to go after. And also, another thing I want to mention is, you know, when it comes to chasing dreams, you know, I have an aunt. This is the last thing I'm going to say before I wrap this up. You know, I have an aunt that she is, oh my gosh, like, if y'all ever walked into this woman's house and just seen her decor, her home decor, she is an amazing interior designer. Even as a kid, I used to love going to her house. I used to always love going, because her house comes alive. The house comes alive, you all. And one day, and this was a few years back, her and I, we love to meet and just chat, you know, and her and I were talking, we were talking about dreams, and she was telling me the importance of me chasing my dreams. And she told me, you know, Kian, I always had the dream of being an interior designer. You know, that was always my dream. And you know, I never went after that dream. You know, I got scared and I never went after it. You know, I kind of just thought, you know, maybe because I'm a Black woman, you know, people are not going to want to hire me. You know, people are not going to want to take me seriously. And I was like, wow, you wanted to be an interior designer? I'm like, it all makes sense. Look at your house. You know, it was all making sense. But I was just listening to her at this time. And then I asked her, I said, Auntie Ann, you know, do you regret not chasing your dreams? And she said, you know what, Kiana? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And that stuck with me ever since. Ever since. Ever ever since, because that's someone that I'm like, if you had chased your dream, I know you would have been, wow, one of the top interior designers. So you all, chase your dream. I know we're in the middle of a global crisis. A lot of us, we don't know what's really going on, but listen, chase your dreams even in the middle of this pandemic. Go after your goals, go after your dreams, and dream big. If there's anything I do, especially being a Pisces, I dream big. I dream so big that sometimes I'm like, is this just a dream? But I'm like, no. This is not just a dream, because what I'm talking to you on, another Pisces made that, Steve Jobs. So dream big, you all. Dream big. And, any highs or lows you experience, just remember, this is your own journey, and, you're just going along your own path and your own journey. Do not compete with anyone, all right? Don't. You are on your own journey and your own path. Trust yourself and believe in yourself, and know that it's going to be a ride. Like, it's a marathon. This is not a sprint at all. And that's another thing I had to learn about entrepreneurship, and that's going to be in the part 2. This is indeed a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I definitely think I, thought it was going to be a sprint at first, but that's probably my little millennial mindset. It's definitely a marathon, but I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful for this ride. So I really hope that this inspired some of you all. I see the comments. Oh, didn't mean to send that. Yeah, doing it better than her no matter what industry it's almost. Yeah, envy. Yeah, I definitely feel like it was that. Yeah, envy running deep, and it was time for me to leave the position and get out. I definitely feel like it was all of that. I definitely feel like it was all that. But also, if anybody feels like they want to gain experience working at a resale fashion store, I definitely recommend that. It's really good experience working in a brick and mortar store. I recommend it after the pandemic. But it's still really good experience, and I am definitely an offline entrepreneur. Definitely. That's something I definitely learned along the way, but I also, just intuitively also knew that. But, I'm learning, because we all got to be online entrepreneurs now. We all do. And I remember I went to a professional conference in 2018, and, this guy said, omni-channels, which is like what we're on right now, are the way of the future. Whether you want to be online, whether you like being online, it doesn't matter. You got to be online. Omni-channels are the way of the world. And I remember when he said that, I'm like, omni-channels. I'm like, okay, that really, it just stuck with me. And I'm like, this guy is right. Omni-channels are the way. Whether we're like, I really don't want to be online. I'd rather meet in like, this is where, the future is going. This is where the direction is going. So I'm going to end it here. I don't want to ramble too much about myself. Sometimes I'm like, all right, that's enough. But I really hope that, me sharing just a part of my story, definitely, sparked some inspiration, along someone's journey away. And I am going to share part 2 and 3, but definitely much later, because as I mentioned early on, I'm still along the journey and along the path. And I think it would be really corny to come here and, act like, I, conquered every goal already, you guys. No, not at all. I am still pushing forward. I am still learning. I am still growing. I am still failing, and I'm still winning. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. I'm still trying to learn how to have grace with myself. I can be really hard on myself at times. But I'm sure a lot of us can, right? So I just wanted to share a part of my story, though, because, I think it's just really important to, share our stories. Storytelling is how we really connect with other people, and, I really hope that it inspires somebody today. And if anyone has any more questions about it, just hit me up in the DMs. But I really hope that you all enjoy this. And thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vintage Glamour. And I will see you all at another one. Bye now.